I saw Lori's presentation last night and I was looking at it and I told her on the way here because she's got the aftermath. And I said, I wish we had like some like theatrical music with it, you know, like dun dun dun. All right, I think you are good to go. All right, guys, here's Lori.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I struggled with the name of this and where we were going. 2020 is behind us. Thank you, God. Hopefully the pandemic is winding down, but, vaccinations continue. Got my second shot yesterday. Woohoo. I'm here. That was the big question. Was the second shot going to take me out or not? And so far it has not, but if I collapse, you'll know why. But when 2020 started, we had no idea this was in front of us. What we were going to be going, we certainly did not prepare for it. We really didn't know. I remember having conversations in March with my sister-in-law, and she said, do you have enough toilet paper? And I said, well, I got enough for 2 weeks. I don't have enough for the zombie apocalypse everybody else seems to be anticipating, which is kind of scary, makes you want to run out and buy another case or so. But, it wasn't 2 weeks. It was months. We struggled through the best we could, pretty much day to day. We just took it as they came. What new big things jumped at us? How did we deal with that? Where we were going to go on with that? Move my picture. I have to look at it. And in so many ways, our lives have changed. You hear the new normal now. Meaning nothing is ever going to be exactly the same as it was before 2020. And when you think about it, washing hands is now an art form, Our own personal space has expanded to pretty close to 6 feet. I don't know what it was for you before, but right now, where you are, 6 feet. Somebody gets within 6 feet, we're backing up. I catch myself doing it all the time. Physical touch, whether it's a hug or even shaking hands, has disappeared. We're doing air hugs and elbows and all sorts of things. I've even heard reports that are people that are suffering from anxiety about having to come out and take their masks off in public, which everybody hates masks, so that seems hard to understand, but it was a security for some people, and nothing is ever going to be the same. And how we do business has radically changed. Online shopping has just taken off, and brick and mortar stores are struggling. Employees, all employees want to work from home now. It's fun. I want to go back to work. I want to work from home. Come on, I can work in my sweats. I can work in my pajamas, slippers. I have to put these stupid heels on. Tuesday I could barely walk by the time I got home. My feet were like, really, what is this? What is this you have put us into? We don't remember this. So, it's a lot of changes. And questions are still continuing. What are we going to do? Do we need to keep the plastic shields in place? Are we still going to have sanitizing stations? Are we going to limit capacity in our office? There really aren't any definitive answers. Part of our new normal is going to be adapting to those new situations as they arise. Planning is going to be key. And so we need to work on that. Last April, we issued memos on the continuity of essential operations. We discussed this at Recorders Conference, which was supposed to take place in April, but didn't take place in July. And we still held it virtually because in July, we still were not able to have in-person meetings due to the pandemic. So all adaptations that we had to make, constantly struggling. Your association worked with us and worked very hard to try to make sure that we still got the training out there, even though we weren't able to do it the way we had traditionally done it. We had a lot of different responses from different local units. I mean, we were talking to not only counties, but cities and towns and special districts. Like I said, some people thought it would be over in a few weeks, and those weeks stretched on past, 2 months and to the end of the year. But government services still had to be provided. We talked about that last July. Some services, it was pretty obvious. Public safety, public health, those had to continue. You can't just shut down those kinds of services. Law enforcement, jails, fire protection, health services, you still need those. Other government services were needed as well. I think for you recorders, you don't always get the public recognition of how important your office is to your county. But I think during the pandemic, you did in possibly a very negative way, unfortunately. But you found out that being open wasn't really an option for you guys. We touched on this with the new legislation. We'll discuss it a little further in the presentation, but people weren't happy if the recorder's office wasn't available to them. We got calls from you guys. We got calls from users of your recorder's office. And again, it was an added burden to you in what you were already dealing with. But in a way, it was some recognition of how important your office is. So I want to briefly review what we discussed last year for the new recorders. You didn't hear this last year, so we're going to just kind of go over that. And then now that we're in a group back in person, we're going to take advantage of that and do some discussions as a group. And again, I hope not only to benefit the experienced recorders, but some of the new recorders as well. So we're going to expect you to participate. From the memo that we issued in April, we set out things to consider as you considered any threat to your ongoing operations. One was setting up a line of succession so that if you were unable to work, someone else could step up, keep your office going. We asked you to take this one step further and plan what to do if your entire office was ill or quarantined. Could someone else outside the office within the county maybe come in and provide services? Something to think about. Keep essential operations going. How are you going to accept documents, track the date and time received, accept your fees, allow access to records for people needing to search? You needed to put that plan in writing, take steps to support that plan by making the plans known so that whoever needed to put that plan or implement that plan at some date, suppose unfortunately you might be ill and not able to do that, they know where to get it, to get the plan and get the support. Plans involved your bank, your IT department, other county offices, officials and employees. And again, making sure that resources, how to contact Lori and Ricky if you got a question, how to contact your association if you have a question, how to contact a fellow recorder, how to get that information out so that you can keep that operation, keep that office going. We had a second memo on coronavirus items to consider when you were thinking about things like within your own office, flexible scheduling, remote work when possible, social distance, masks and sanitizers, plastic barriers, separate areas for work or research so that you can maintain social distancing, protect your employees, protect the public, remote access to records, making that, bringing that into more fulfillment if it wasn't already there. The PowerPoint from the presentation as well as the actual memos are still available on our website. We do record. Unfortunately, that recording didn't work. We really feel bad about that. It was the only one that didn't for some reason, but the PowerPoint's still there. The memos are still there. You can always call and ask us questions. And here we stand on the other side of 2020. Hopefully the back end of the pandemic again. Somehow, either well or badly, we've survived. Yay, we survived. Although to some extent, we've all suffered loss, some more deeply than others. We are working our way to our new normal. So what do we do with these plans? How do we move forward? Do not throw out your plan. They may be needed again in the future for some new threat to ongoing operations. And that may not be a health emergency. It might be, hope it doesn't ever happen again. It could be a natural disaster. It might be a cyber attack. If 2020 taught us anything, it taught us that we don't know what we might be facing in the future. The plans need to be kept and updated as needed. And if for any reason you do not have a written plan, you still need to develop one. To update the plan at this point, we need to look back at what we learned during the pandemic, correct any issues or weaknesses in the plan, and then we need to stock of what worked, what didn't, and if it didn't, why not? Were we missing critical equipment or other issues? What changes need to be made to address those problems? And as we plan for any future crisis, we need to revise our plans, prioritize what we need to accomplish those plans. It's going to take time to get everything done, but a plan helps you keep on track. Just as a shameless plug for your record perpetuation fund, the needs of your continuity plan can be worked into that plan for your perpetuation fund. For example, if you've determined that too many of your records or your older records are on hard copy and you need to scan those in to make them available electronically so that future remote access is more possible or more accessible, you need to determine what additional equipment or software is needed to accomplish this. Work that into the plan, including personal services to complete the scanning and indexing. All of that could be paid through perpetuation, so you work that as part of your plan. The two plans go together. Okay, we're at the point where we're going to need group participation. Ricky and I took calls from recorders, so we know you were dealing with issues last year, but y'all were in the middle of it. We don't work day to day in the recorder's office, so we heard what happened secondhand. We want to hear what you went through, what worked, what didn't. This is a true group of your peers. No one else is going to understand what you went through last year better than this room right here. Not your family, not your friends, not even other county employees. This group right here is going to understand what happened to you. And so this is a chance not only to share those ideas for your new recorders, but also maybe a little bit to vent, maybe to laugh together, to get some of this out so that we, as we're moving forward, this is a safe place to do so. And again, no one's going to understand like these people do. So I'm going to start by throwing out some questions. I know you guys are not shy. I know that. So don't disappoint me in here. So did anyone have their entire office, the recorder's office, was closed down for any length of time because of COVID? How many? Entire office. For those of you that did, what did you do for that time period? Anything?
Well, my office went in, the whole courthouse just went in for 1 hour per day, and we still processed recordings and tried to do as much as we could within that hour per the directive of the commissioners. They said we could go in for that time period. So if they didn't get done, while we were there for that period, then we just moved it over to the other day. But things were still processed, recordings were there, as my assessor was still there, my auditor was still there, and the recorder's office was still there during that 1 hour.
Did the public have access to you?
The public did not have access, no.
So how did you get new documents, like new recordings?
We use the treasurer's Dropbox outside. People could drop things in and just write recorder's office. And the treasurer would check that daily because it was during tax time as well. So we had an area where she could we had a table set up, and we had, if you just wrote the recorder's office, it just went in the stack, and then each office had their own stack and they could collect their mail that way. And we still had electronic recordings through Simplifile and CSC, but they were non-transferable. So, but if we had transferable, it would have been a lot more practical and a lot more easier to continue.
Anybody else do something different that had their whole office closed down?
Noble County. The first time around, our commissioners closed everything, and nobody was allowed to go in for 2 weeks. Well, then we had a discussion. One of our commissioners said, well, I thought I was doing what the governor wanted. But then he found out that many of the counties around us were not closed like they closed Noble. And so, after 2 weeks, though, we went back in. The UPS, the FedEx caught up with us. I don't know where they were stationed it at because we had no drop boxes or anything. So then the second time around, when I and my deputy got COVID, that same commissioner said, you will close your office because, and your part-time will go on quarantine. Okay. So that's what we did. And that was at Thanksgiving. And so we were closed. My office only was closed again for 2 weeks. No mail was processed. I had nobody else that could come in. And I didn't do anything. I didn't have the ability to do anything remotely. I was too sick anyways. But so the auditor's office collected all of our mail and put it in a box, you know, and it was one of those things where we put out as much publicity as we could that the recorder's office was closed until the date of whatever, 2 weeks after that. But when we got in gear, we got everything done within the week, and then we got caught up. Did we have any backlash on it? We really did not.
Wow.
We really did not. Only the first time around, one commissioner that I know very well, when they had closed down the whole county, there was a banker that had contacted my commissioner, and then the commissioner called me. Well, I have a banker that wants a deed recorded that's very important that he gets it recorded. And I said, well, we're supposed to be closed down. I said, it's not only me on this. I said, the assessor has to be on board and the auditor has to be on board. And I said, I don't think that's going to happen because the assessor's office has somebody that's pregnant in there anyways, and he did not want her around. Well, we didn't know what was happening.
Right.
And so then the council member called me because he's a friend of this banker too.
Of course.
And so for about 3 days, I had a commissioner and a council on my back. And I said, listen, unfortunately, this is the way it is. And this is what you've done. This is what you've told us for the next 2 weeks. And I said, I am not going to play favorites. I cannot go in. And I said, I don't think you can ask the assessor and auditor to do the same thing for one person. That is not fair to the rest of them. That thinking that we are closed down and there's no business being done. So, still don't know for sure what banker, but I kind of have an idea. But anyways, we lived through it and everybody's got a story to tell.
Yeah. Did anybody else have pushback from being closed?
Good morning. I'm Sherry from Lake County, the chief deputy. And I concur with what the other woman said, that we were closed for 2 weeks. The commissioners did not have an answer for us. Then they told us that it was up to our department, but we needed the assessor and the auditor. So what a coworker and I did is we took home the overnights, we took home the mail. We processed probably 2,000 documents, came back, got them ready for recording. Then we brought back half of our staff and we worked 3 days a week, but we did the work in 3 days that we would do in 5, and we processed 3,000 more documents than we did from the year before in the time frame where we were closed. We were attacked by the title companies because we would have them come to the door on a Wednesday, drop off. And one title company just attacked us, and there was, it's emotional because they sent letters to the commissioners. They personally attacked me, and I just kind of attacked back, and I said, we're doing the best that we can, and shame on you. But for our staff that came in and did it, we didn't get any hazard paid. We didn't get a thank you. And finally, the other offices started coming back, and we were working on a split schedule till May. but it was very hard. And we got no direction from our commissioners. And just like she said, it wasn't a banker. It was a title company that knew a commissioner, that knew a councilman, that called us, but we could only do what we could do. And everyone was scared to come in.
It was scary at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone was scared.
Yes, and we have 6-foot shields around each of our desks and throughout our office. So yes, I mean, we worked through it, but the title companies were horrible to us.
We, on the other hand, our commissioners shut our building down and said only department heads and elected officials were allowed in the building. So all of our staff went home. So for the first couple of weeks, we didn't have any staff in there at all. Well, my staff didn't come back until May. And the rest of the courthouse pretty much didn't either. So we had a brand new clerk that ran the elections by herself, never having done an election before. So she was awesome. And then she got beat in a primary and didn't get to go ahead because she filled in a caucus. So unfortunate for her, people didn't get to see the work that she did. But we just tried to process I mean, I went in every day and processed the mail and did what I could do. And then I numbered and documented the order that everything came in. And then I worked with the assessor's office and the auditor's office. And eventually they allowed us to bring staff in to do certain things. So about once a week, we would do all of our transfer documents. And our title companies were awesome. We didn't have any pushback. I only had one call from an underwriter's attorney asking me how I was going to do the process. And her biggest concern was that we would record a second mortgage before a deed and a first mortgage would get recorded. So I used to do title work. So I said, I will do my due diligence and I will check and make sure when a mortgage comes in by itself that those people actually have title to that property before I record it. So other than that, everybody was great. You know, we had enough online, fortunately, that people could get most of their stuff off of DocsPop. And if it was a document that they couldn't get, they'd just email us. We'd copy it and send it out to them. So, and then during that time, we had to wait for them to pay us, of course, right, you know, when they got back in the office. But we kept the flow going in Carroll County. So.
Mandy Thomason from Stark County. Our staff was still in the office, but we were closed to the public for quite some time. We were rotating. So my deputy and I would rotate days or a week at a time. But we weren't allowed to have any of our searchers or anybody in the commissioners push back on us about that. Weren't allowed anything. So we had a lot of emails to take care of and try and get our searchers taken care of that way.
Marcia, Hancock County. We were genuinely polar opposite. Our county commissioners felt this was a hoax and that it was no worse than a bad cold or flu. Ooh. And after pressure from one of the judges, like all of the department heads went downstairs to the commissioners and said, look, err on the side of caution and close. So the commissioners extremely reluctantly said, okay, it's up to your departments to do what you want. And they would close the building as far as lock the doors, and that each department was on your own. So I, on the other hand, got in the pushback for sending all my people home, except for we kept one person in the office for the entire week. And that person was able to answer the phone and do the mail. The rest of us could work from home because we fortunately had already purchased some laptops ahead of time because I was wanting a laptop so that when I was at conference, I could still stay in contact and so forth. So we were, and fortunately for us too, we also already had e-filing of our transfer documents available.
So what we did was one person went in the office from 8 to 3. They just ate at their desk. I went in at 3, ran the nightly reports, went to the bank drive-through every night that way. And then the next week, another employee would go in. We figured it that way in the sense that given this 14-day period, we all kind of felt was requirement at the time. We felt like one person at a time in the office gave them at least the weekend, the whole week, and the next weekend, that if they were going to get sick, they were going to get sick at home or they were going to get sick in the office, and we wouldn't any of us be around each other, you know. And we took searchers by appointment only from 9 to 3. That gave us an hour to clean, re-clean public access. It gave us the time between each searcher to clean while the searchers were in there. And then we didn't let any searchers in there after 3, again, so that we could clean and sanitize. And we did that through the second week of May in that format. And again, the commissioners were somewhat upset with us for not having employees coming back sooner than the May timeframe. And then again, when November, the second wave kind of hit again around the holiday, I immediately did the same thing, allowed staff, we're working from home, alternating schedules. Commissioners didn't close the building or anything at that point to any, you know, at all. And so again, there was, I want to say, jealousy in a sense from departments that couldn't necessarily work from home because they didn't have the e-filing. And I felt like that was unfortunate.
I'm Nicole from Clay County. When everything first happened, the commissioners and council set us all down and said, we don't know what your offices need, so let's come up with a plan by office. We have a woman who works for a title company that's on council. So her and I worked together knowing that we couldn't all real estate for a delayed period of time. So after we had that initial meeting, they put in a drop box outside so that things could be dropped for the treasurer and then she could disperse it. We gave our mailman a key fob to get into the building so that he could deliver mail at any time. And then we also, the auditor, assessor, and I sat down and came up with a plan so that we knew like when they were going to come in and how we would pass things along. My office, none of us worked together. There's only 3 of us. We would all work for 4 hours, 1 day a week. And we allowed the title searchers to come in 2 of those days for 4 hours, no more than 4 at a time, to search. And then we also brought a computer from the auditor's office and from the clerk's department down. So everything was centralized search in our office. So they weren't going into others because they had varied hours as well. We came up with that plan. The first day the auditor decided to do whatever the hell she wanted. So it kind of went to pot pretty quick, but we kind of worked with her to say, okay, this was the plan and this was going to work. And now you've changed the plan and it's not working. So we kind of got her back on course, but we did as much as we could in the 6 weeks we were closed. The title companies were very thankful that we were even open because we had surrounding counties that weren't. So kind of just made the best of it. And we opened back up fully to the public, I think May 18th, and we haven't closed.
How did you
Since it-
coordinate communication just within your staff since you were never in this room at the same time? Did
We
you
we
email
text each
or-
other all the time anyway,
Oh,
so
okay.
we're besties. So
That's good.
they're like the best people to work for. So we just text each other and say, hey, I left this for you. It's in the filing cabinet, or you have this when you come in, or, you know, let me know if you're overwhelmed. I can hop on the laptop and do stuff. So it was just a lot of texting and communication and trying to work together. And honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, we made the best of a bad situation and do what you can.
Hi, I'm Dottie of Decatur County. I just have a question. So like my girls, Abby she was pregnant and due to have the baby. We got her out of there.
Mhm.
Okay. Denise we closed for the 2 weeks. Okay, but the county commissioners decided that if you don't feel comfortable coming back in the 2 weeks, because we were able to work, I was able to work, keep working from home and running in. But they made her take vacation. Did anybody else have to take vacation time for that extra week? She took an extra week and she had to take vacation time. And then they would have docked Abby too, because, you know, on her maternity leave, she took her vacation on her maternity leave, but she didn't get that. If she needed any extra, they docked. So I just was curious.
Our county was given the option if you wanted to stay home, but you did have to use PTO time.
Are there any counties that don't have all of their records available electronically? All of them? Yeah.
I think it was Eric back said, like, you guys are working on it. They can scan up to deeds 50 years back, and then they're working on the rest of the documents back to like 1883.
So has everybody got plans to start getting more and more on slowly but surely? Yeah. Has this sped it up?
We scanned in all of this is Sue from Pulaski County, and we scanned in all of our documents the prior year and back to the 1800s. We don't have them all indexed, but they are, they can be looked up by the last name, which is time consuming since there's several people in our county have the same last name. But but through DocSpot and through, we now accept transfer documents. We went live on that the November before this all happened. So that was beneficial. And a lot of our banks and lawyers weren't using it until the COVID. And once they found out how handy that was, they have continued even after we are now open. They still are using the Simple File, or we also have CSC. So that was beneficial, and that was planned by accident.
Yeah.
We didn't know this was going to happen.
Some good things that came out of this. Yeah.
But for those, that are thinking about it, we found it tremendously beneficial. And a lot of even our researchers are using the DocSpot rather than coming in to search, because it's just more convenient for them.
Are there any counties that have no electronic access? Yay. For those of you that set up appointments, did that work? For the most part, you didn't get a lot of pushbacks. We set up appointment times. Okay, good. That's good to know.
Hancock County. We the appointment schedule worked really well. A searcher would call, they'd block in a period of time that they wanted to search. And then we even had it online so that if a member of the public wanted to come in for whatever business they needed, they could also make an appointment and do that. And then we were kind of like Nikki said, we had also already coordinated with the auditor and the assessor on drop-off boxes in our hallways.
Okay.
So that we could take documents. And then we've always kept a spreadsheet of deeds that came in the mail anyway. So if they came in the mail and we knew we dropped it over to the assessor's office, we noted that. And then we noted when we got it back and got it recorded. So, but we had kind of already had that
tracking
spreadsheet and
system
that
in
kind of
place.
thing in place way before this ever happened.
We did the appointments and they were directed to call our office, because most of the time it was somebody wanting to, come in and search or bring in a deed. Not knowing everybody that wanted to come into the building when they called, I got a little backlash from the auditor because someone came in and they wanted to do a homestead search because they wanted to apply for the homestead. And she was a little unhappy with him coming into her office to do that. When I made the appointment, he just said, I need to come search. I mean, I don't know every searcher out there because a lot of times you'll have somebody come that's never even been to your office before. So other than that, but we were the ones that made the appointment. So we had to go down and let them in. And so I got my steps in big time.
That's another silver lining. You got your steps in.
Okay, my deputy is taking up my time with the microphone. I'm Linda Smith. I'm from Madison County. Angie and I had to spring into action because it seemed like no one else was going to. Our commissioners didn't step up right away. So we played the Rocky theme song, and I'm just kidding about that. And I got in touch with the assessor and with the auditor, and we just worked it out. So was it perfect? No. And so we had to continue to revise our plan as things changed, but we made it. And we feel like we were very successful. So that's it.
I'm Angie Rose from LaPorte County, and we're still closed. We're still closed to the public. Some of us are we let our public come in and do what they need to do. We get backlash from the other offices for doing that, but I'm sorry, this has gone on long enough, and we are to serve our community. And I have been there every day. I did not get no sick time, no vacation, nothing. I was there every day. Me and my coworker, we're besties too. And we worked, if they knocked on our door or called us, because we have a direct line, we would go downstairs, get the deeds, whatever they needed, and we would process them. We shouldn't have had no backlash whatsoever because we went over and beyond our duty.
Pat Brooks, Warwick County. We, fortunately or unfortunately, the previous 2 years, we'd had floods in my office. The ceiling had caved in, the pipes burst. So that was the 2018. And then another section of pipes and heating and air burst the following year. We had 2 big insurance claims, got all new equipment, and it happened again. And so when COVID came along, we all had laptops. We were all set up to, and they closed the courthouse and told us to go home. They caught me coming in to forward the phone, and they told me to get out. So I had to leave. But we had little mini Zoom meetings every morning with the staff. When we started out, we had laptops at home, the assessor, we could transfer, we did everything. But it was because of the previous floods. And so we were kind of set up and prepared. And chief deputy, another deputy came down with COVID, and I did. But we worked at home. They even worked at home when they were sick, didn't you, Mitzi? Yeah, she did. So, and we sold more online accounts. Tapestry, Laredo make a lot more money now. And we don't even have as many abstractors coming in because we sold all these accounts, and our e-recordings are up probably close to 40% now. And it has been difficult on us to a degree, but because of the previous floods, we were kind of already set up to work at home.
So there's an example of a disaster you can deal with that is not health related. They can come up in many forms. We're going to move on because how much time do I have left? 8 minutes. We're going to move on. Oh, this was a great discussion. I really appreciate all of your participating. again, we talked about this real briefly yesterday. I'm not going to go belabor it, but you know, yours was the only office that was addressed again as far as needing to have a plan if you're closed. So again, it emphasizes how important your office is. What I gathered from everything I had read, their principal concerns that the records submitted are secured, that they're recorded in the order of receipt, that they have access to search those records, and the procedures for transfer and conveyances are kept. So that's when you're putting your plans together. That's really what they want to see. And it sounds like from what you guys have been discussing, you're on top of that. So congratulations for that. What you need to do now going forward is take stock. Listen, you know, you've heard all of these great plans, what they implemented, what worked, what didn't, what they revised, what they moved forward. Look at your own plans. See where you might have some weaknesses that you want to move forward. What, you know, what worked for you, what didn't. How you address things. Is everything caught up? Have you gone through everything and made sure that nothing got overlooked somewhere? That everything is up to date as it should be? Do you have all the equipment that you need? Do you have the laptops or the scanners or any other equipment that you need? And what are your procedures in your county to get that? We talked a little bit about the additional federal funding. So there may be ways, additional ways to purchase this when you're dealing with COVID. So get with your commissioners and your council when they're putting their plans together for the use of that money. What procedure and policies need to be reviewed and updated? Look at your order of succession. Does that need to be changed? Do you have new personnel? Do you have a new recorder? What kind of internal controls need to be in place? Okay. I realize when we're talking about this, and we're kind of hammering this home, and we're talking about these planning that, you know, just coming from Ricky and I, we're both planners. We plan, we make plans to make our plans. And that's no joke. We have notebooks and calendars and lists of lists. So when we're discussing plans, we take this really seriously. If you're not a planner, you may just be hearing yada, 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 whatever. But this is big. This planning is important. You found that out last year. If you had a plan that didn't work or your plan that didn't work exactly the way you wanted to, can you plan for everything? No, you cannot. Do plans fail? Absolutely, they do. But if you don't plan at all, failure is pretty much guaranteed. So make sure that you have a plan in place that you at least can start with, that you can hit these crises, not reacting to them, but be proactive, be able to deal with it, know what you need to do to get your services out to your citizens to keep your office going. If you haven't done so already, review all of your work from last year. We're going to emphasize the financial, but again, make sure you also review the plan. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you have to look at it every day. It doesn't mean you have to sleep with it under your pillow like I do with my internal control manual. Just kidding. It's in the bed. It's in the table next to me. It's not under my pillow. It also doesn't mean that you file it away and never look at it again. In between, there's a large range of time. You have to decide how often you need to review it. I would suggest your personnel changes, you change bank software, or other major changes, you review that plan. Just make a note to look at it at the same time you might be reviewing those internal controls. Make sure your financial records are up to date. Everything's reconciled, which I know it is. You've given access to the software to or bank access to someone else during the time that you were ill or whatever. Make sure you've revoked that access when that access is no longer needed. Okay, so you need to keep up with that as well. And again, pay special attention to the work that was done outside of your standard operating procedures. If it was done remotely with a staggered workforce, work that was catching up when you've been closed for a while, make sure that your standards were met during those times. So pay closer attention to that when you're reviewing it. Evaluate the things you still need to accomplish in your plan. whether it's additional staff, additional hours, software, hardware, any other equipment or supplies that have been needed. You will not be able to get everything you need or want all at one time. So you need to set a priority list. What's the most important? What's the highest priority? Down to the least. Determine an estimated cost for each part of your plan. Look at your budget. Look at your perpetuation fund. There might be other funds, such as the federal funding that we discussed on Tuesday, that could be available for COVID-related expenses. Set up a timeline to implement this plan and how it can be funded. Will it be perfect and unfold exactly the way you plan? Probably not. But again, without a plan, you may not even achieve a part of what you need to get done. We mentioned the perpetuation fund again. You can use that perpetuation fund without appropriation for the preservation of records and improvement of record keeping. That means if you're doing something like scanning records and indexing, moving it to electronic, buying equipment that supports that, all of that can be paid out of the perpetuation fund. This can be part of your plan for the perpetuation fund. Okay? You need that plan, one, because you need to, if you're going to use, if you are going to use your perpetuation fund for your operating expenses, you need to know how much you have in that plan that's available to use for that. And secondly, it's not perfect, but if your council is eyeing the balance in your perpetuation fund, having a plan showing what you need to do with that money over the long term, over your long range, your 5-year capital improvement or 5-year plan to get your electronic recording up to date, is a better protection for that fund than saying, I don't know, I think I still need it. So it's not an absolute protection for it, but it's much better protection. So make sure that you're including that perpetuation fund in that plan. I'm so proud of this because it's the only picture I put in, and it was actually like puzzle pieces, which kind of fits your theme, and that never happens to me. Okay, we can't write your plan for you. It's going to be unique to your office. It's going to be a response to your available staffing and resources. However, we can always assist in brainstorming potential plans. Your fellow recorders can also provide an invaluable resource if you share ideas and concerns, just like we did today. Just as you know, you listen to each other and what works and what didn't, you get invaluable ideas. No need to reinvent the wheel. Someone's already figured something out. Take advantage of that expertise that's in this room right now and those that are watching virtually. I think I did it. Do we have any other questions? Yes. How many offices were able to stay open through the whole year? Quite a few. Yes, you do. Yes, because even if you were fortunate enough that the courthouse didn't get closed and that no one in your office got, well, or that no one in your office got sick, you still have to deal with that, you know, or in Floyd County, they had the flood. You know, there are things that are going to come up. You need that plan no matter what. It's just for you. Yes. Okay. If the recorder rarely checks their email, really? Can the direct request email be sent to another address? No, the system functions by sending it to the submitter. That's why Ricky kind of pushed that submitter thing. So you're going to have to check your email. If you know we're in auditing, be a good time to check your email regularly, even if you don't the rest of the year. Although how you do that, I don't know. Any other questions? The recorder is the submitter. Even if they delegate someone else to do the upload, the elected official is always the submitter.
I had someone email me a question. Could they explain House Bill 1255 from slide 11 from Tuesday?
Not at this second. If we have time before we're done, we'll
Well,
go back and
she's
look at it.
specifying regarding signatures on documents. This bill adds the
I don't know if
phrase.
they're ready for me, but we'll figure it out.
Okay, never mind. Ricky took care of it.
Oh,
thank you.
They weren't sure what logically associated meant.
We are. Okay. We are going to switch over.